From the Wayne County Courthouse in Goldsboro, North Carolina, Wayne Goldsboro Television brings you the meeting of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. Please stand by for the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Good morning and welcome to our August 15th meeting. Mr. Gurley, I think you had an invocation this morning.
I'd like to introduce and welcome up Pastor Barry Stallings, a very close friend of mine, pastor of Pleasant Grove Church outside of Pikeville. And Barry, if you would come up and lead us in invocation.
Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you for your many blessings today. And Lord, as our commissioners come together, Lord, to help make the decisions for this county, we pray a special blessing upon all 7 that represent the districts in Wayne County. Lord, that you'll give them clear thinking, Lord, and that you'll lead, guide, and direct every step. Dear Lord, that everything that is said and done in this meeting today will bring honor and glory to you. We pray for all those that are present today, all the things on the agenda today, dear Lord. We pray, Father, that your blessings be upon them. And Lord, we pray that you'll help our nation, Father, Lord, that's struggling so much today, that you, Lord Jesus, the Prince of Peace, will bring peace to our country and our land. For we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Mayor.
Let us stand and place the flag, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I trust everybody's had the opportunity to review the minutes. Are there any corrections in the minutes from the last meeting?
Move approval.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. We did make some adjustments to the agenda during the earlier hour. Are there any more adjustments to the agenda?
No, sir.
Commissioners? Okay. Motion to, do we have a motion to accept the agenda as it is?
Motion to accept.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. And I guess we need to come down up front now, don't we?
All right, to begin with, for the 1-year service pins, Cecilia Anderson, Emergency Medical Services. Walker Barrow, Emergency Medical Services. Jasmine Bayford, Jail. Kaylin Cannon, DSS. Patrice Corpening, DSS. Dominique Edmondson, DSS. Julie Hales, Wayne County Development Alliance. Jacynthia Herring, DSS. Julia Herring, Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office. Lana Linker, Register of Deeds.
Guys, we're not trying to be cool, Joe.
Ginger Moore, Human Resources. Jerome Adgers, Facilities. Brittany Bell, DSS. Erica Burton, DSS. Jacob Carmichael, non-emergency transport. Amity Hines, DSS. Robert Hines, jail. Vanessa Lopez Morales, DSS. Robert Mitchell, Sheriff's Office.
Glad to see that they're hiring him in the KSS.
Candace Morris, Health. Ramon Perez Lopez, Jail. Robert Phillips, Senior Citizens. Velvet Smith, Jail. Jimmy Whaley, Emergency Medical Services. Johnny Best, Solid Waste. Oh, I'm sorry, these are the 5-year service pins. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Sorry, boss. Christopher Gustafson, Sheriff's Office. Jamie Howard, Emergency Medical Services. Jennifer Lester, Emergency Medical Services. Bridget Marino, Emergency Medical Services. Jennifer Rouse, GIS. Lois Turner, Health Department, Child Services. Lori Hatch, Emergency Services. Shannon Jones, Emergency Medical Services. Dorothy McCullough, Library. Jeremy McLaughlin, Emergency Medical Services. Sarita Wilder, DSS. And that concludes our 5-year pins. Now we'll move on to our 10-year service pins
Hang on.
in a moment.
All right.
William Joseph Arnett Jr., Emergency Medical Services. Michael Dawson, Sheriff's Office. Anitra Peacock, Emergency Medical Services. Jimmy Combs, Solid Waste. Leah Miller Grimmer, Health Department. Jacqueline Rouse, Health Department. And Stacy Smith, DSS. That concludes our 10-year service pins. Next, we'll recognize our 15-year service pin recipients. Deborah McGee Williamson, DSS. Tammy Mathis, DSS. And that concludes our 15-year. We have 20-year service pins now with Francina Lynn Belton with the Health Department. We know him as Bill, but William R. Lemon, Information Technology. And Tammy Smith Mazinga, Sheriff's Office.
Thank you.
That concludes our 20-year service pins. We have one lady here today for her 25-year service pin, Vicki Carol Cawthon from Department of Social Services. Okay, we do. And that's it.
I thought Joe was gonna get it.
I think so.
I do myself.
Are you? All right. Well, I will check it out. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. Let's go ahead and move on to public comments. Anyone who wants to speak has got 4 minutes. If you give us your name, your address, and your phone number, please come on up and let us open now.
Speak.
Nah, she's looking. Come on.
Good morning. I am Yvonne Stanley. I live at 916 Bryan Boulevard. I'm here in reference to Bosco Beach again. I hear that y'all are considering taking the property back that the city has in the ETJ. What are y'all going to do to help us out there with the noise? How many of you people up there have ever been to Bosco Beach? How many of you know where the FEMA land is that the Bosco Beach is using for free? Yeah, okay. How many of you actually have walked on that land? All of it or part of it?
Some of it.
And y'all are gonna vote on something that you haven't put your feet on. You don't know exactly where it's at. and the county has allowed Bosco Beach to go in there and actually fence in y'all's land and the city's land. They don't have a lease on it. Is that right? Yet I leased a piece of property from the county and was told that I had to take the fence down, which cost me over $300 to pay somebody to take it down on land that y'all own because I leased it. Is that right? Bosco Beach has been cited by the federal government for putting that fence up around y'all's land. Y'all haven't done anything about it. Is that right? It's supposed to be open space. If you've got a gate on something and a fence around it, is that open space? We've had deaths down there, and not one or two, a bunch. We've had one within the last 2 months down there. And the last time I heard, 2 women from that same accident was in Duke Hospital. If you go down and pull the records on the emergency place down there where the rescue squad goes in and out, it's ungodly how many times rescue squads go out there. Are y'all doing anything about the accidents out there at Bosco Beach? And some of those accidents could be happening on the county and the city's property. Now, that's not right. The noise ordinance that y'all have, I read it. It's not going to help us if y'all take that ETJ back. I want to know, what are you going to do? I'm a taxpayer. What are you going to do to help me? Can anybody answer the question? Are y'all going to continue to allow people, if you get the property back, to be killed down at Bosco Beach? Or do we have to take this thing up to Raleigh and get some laws passed? It's going to make us look like a bunch of dumb idiots down here because we can't clean up our own house. You know, those people are dying down there. A 30-year-old man got killed at Bosco Beach. I've seen it in the paper one time. Nothing else has been said. It's time we clean up our own acts. And y'all can do it.
Thank you, Ms. Stanley.
Huh?
Thank you for your time
Thank
and your
you.
comments. Is there anyone else?
Good morning, Chairman, Board of Commissioners. My name is Charles Wright. I live in Goldsboro, North Carolina. I just want to speak briefly about the tax issue, and I know we're going to be hearing about FEMA and flooded houses and what have you. And my concern is, as a property owner that had a flooded house, I want to know what my tax liability is going to be coming up. I don't want to have to wait until I get that little card in the mail and saying, this is the amount of taxes you owe Mr. Wright. Then I'm trying to backtrack and call the tax department to say, well, my house was flooded out, had X amount of damage. Is someone going to come out and reassess the value of my property? Or if I had a boat or a car or anything that a Wayne County citizen pay taxes on, is there some methodology that's going through the system now where the tax department is going to send out a letter and saying, if you've had damage to your property, whether it's your home, and you do not think it's worth the value that you pay taxes on the year before, fill out these forms or call us or have a certain procedure. Because what I'm finding out about people that was affected by the flood, a lot of people need a lot of time to assemble some records. Sometimes the records is not immediately available. They have to write off to certain agencies, sometimes out of the state, to get duplicates. So I just want to be assured that you know that there are people that's relying on the tax department to let us know in a very timely manner what we will need to do to have our tax rates adjusted for our property or anything else that we claim that was damaged or lost as a result of a hurricane or a windstorm. And that was it. I asked for this not just for myself, but for all the people that may have in the county that may have been affected financially and their property affected through the recent hurricane in October. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rudd. Is there anyone else? Okay, public comment section is closed. Let's move on to our public hearing and, did I miss something? Oh, wait, 9:30, I'm sorry, we can't do that yet, can we? Let's move on to the special recognition then.
Allison, if you'd come up, please. This is getting to be a habit, but it's a good one. Each year, we file our comprehensive annual financial report, which is the document that also contains our audit. And we file it with the Government Finance Officers Association of the U.S. and Canada. And we do it in order to apply for an award they give. And once again this year we got it, and I think this is the 20th, I think the 20th consecutive year that we've done this. But let me read this. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to the County of Wayne by Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for its comprehensive annual financial report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. An award of financial reporting achievement has been awarded to the individual and department designated by the government as primarily responsible for preparing the award-winning CAFR. And that, of course, is Allison Spade, who is our finance director, and also the finance department. The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. And I know that y'all are aware of it because you get copies, but I wanted the public to know this is more than just an audit. This report gives a lot of detailed information into how we have used the financial resources during the year, what major programs have we improved on, what capital projects have we constructed, that sort of thing. It also gives a very clear understanding of our debt service and anything financial that you would want to know. So, Allison, on behalf of the County Commission and myself, I just want to say thank you. Congratulations to you and to your whole team in the Finance Department.
Speech.
Just that I certainly do not do my own. That's why I wanted the staff to stand, because they are a fantastic staff, and none of this would be possible without them. So I just appreciate them very much. Thank you.
And we appreciate you guys to keep us out of trouble. Thank you so much. All right, moving quickly on to the consent agenda. We discussed this at length in the 8 o'clock session. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? We had a motion down here somewhere. Pick one.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And before we move on, I think you had someone that wanted to come up and talk about the last piece about the honeybee day.
Absolutely, Miss Jo Daniels with the beekeepers.
We've already passed it, we wanted to hear from you, Steve.
The correct title is Beekeepers of the Noose.
Yeah, it does. Good morning.
Come on.
I want to thank you all for being supportive of bees in our Wayne County agricultural area. We lose 1/3 of our food source. So The honeybees are real important. With Lynn Williams, I always kid with her and say, Lynn Williams, a man on a pickle, I always kid with her and say, Lynn, you wouldn't have those cucumbers in that company if you didn't have any honeybees. And I always get a smile at her. I do appreciate you giving us the proclamation for National Honeybee Day, which will be on the 19th of this month. I'm sweating it out for the next 4 days. And it will be held at Waynesboro Park. And it's from 9 until 3. And we invite the public to come and enjoy. We have lots of educational programs going on for children and adults alike. So please thank you. I do thank you very much for doing that for us.
Thank
Okay?
you for doing it. Thanks for coming. We're not still at 9:30 yet, so let's go ahead and, let's go ahead and do DSS. Earl? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do DSS.
Okay,
He's
all
already
right,
here.
okay. Mr. Earl, would you come up, please?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
We had a study done about our operating hours, and it was recommended that we go basically 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, with the exception of services. They will work 8 to 6, although the board and building will only be open 8 to 5. But some staff will flex out 4 hours a week based on seniority. I got schedules for them if you would like to see them.
Oh, we got, didn't we already get that? Okay. Maybe I've saw it, I don't know.
No, it's not, we don't have
I
that.
think you shared it with me.
Yeah, I may have shared it.
You did. And you had to say.
That's a spread, sort of a spreadsheet as to the areas affected.
Child Support Public Assistance Program administration will be 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. This is services, works on a different schedule. Sometimes foster care has to meet with families. They have to meet with families every month. They have to meet with them in their home, and so obviously those hours won't work. But that is the schedule for adult and children's services, and as I said, everybody else would be 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And that's what we're recommending.
Are there questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, have we determined that we can implement this 5-day schedule without hiring additional employees, other than the ones that we have vacancies for now?
If we were to stay 7 to 6 Monday through Friday, we would have to have additional clerical staff for receptionists and whatever. We have 3 reception areas in the county office building, one in the courthouse and child support and in services, but we will not have to have additional clerical help.
Earl, so this means you'll be open 45 hours a week?
No, we'll be open 40 hours a week, except
Oh, I was going by 8 to 6.
that's for services only, and those people will be flexing out 4 hours a week.
Oh, okay.
So the board and building will only be open 8 to 5 this week.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Follow up. It's a matter of clarity. How long have the employees known about going to a 5-day work week?
We started discussing this shortly after I came in May, as per the board's discussion, and been planning on it. All the staff have been screamed about it. They're all aware of it. We've talked about it in staff meetings and managers meetings, and all those minutes for all those meetings are taken and sent out to all employees as well as the social services board. So everybody, they're waiting for the official date to start, and we're recommending that be September the 5th.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Is there a motion?
Yes. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the Wayne County work schedule recommendation as presented, contingent upon approval by the DSS board at our next meeting. I make that in the form of a motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion?
Can I just clarify, Mr. Mayor, what you say about adding additional employees now?
If we were to stay 7 to 6, 5 days a week, we have 3 reception areas in the county office building. And some clerical positions were frozen in the past, or were switched to something else. We would not have sufficient clerical staff to cover all the reception areas from 7 to 6 if we were to do it 5 days a week in all the different locations. Because we would be going from 4 to 5 days. And if they work 40 hours, then that would make it 48 hours that the offices were open, and we would not have sufficient clerical staff for reception.
So-
Mr. Meredith is justifying, if you will, Mr. Chairman.
Have you finished?
Well,
I was gonna address this.
what's the impact going to be, I guess, what I'm asking?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
What, to stay open 7 to 6?
Yes.
Well, we have to offer all services. If we're open, we can't just offer one service. Like, say we did something on Friday morning or something, we can't do that. We have to take applications for all public assistance programs. Obviously, in services, we've been open anyway, with people doing child abuse investigations, adult abuse investigations, and those areas. We're basically open 7 days a week. The offices aren't, but we've got somebody working just about 7 days a week. all
So
the
for
time.
these 3 program areas or 3 areas in the county office building, you're going to need additional help on Fridays?
We will not need it if we go 8 to 5.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Is that what you were going to clarify?
That's what I was gonna clarify. He's just saying that we're gonna go 8 to 5 according to what's recommended. But if we were to go from 7 to 6, it would require additional
I understand.
employees. Yes.
I don't know, you get clear in my head here. So, open to the public, it'll be open 8 to 5. When folks work till 6, they'll be doing office work, is that?
Or they may be out doing home visits.
Okay.
They may be doing investigations.
Right, but the point
They
is,
may do
the office hours will be 8 to 5.
In the boarding building as well, yes.
Okay.
That, we will not have reception there, but 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
All right, is there any further discussion? Not hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now we can go to our public hearing, and this is the explanation of regulations of the activities, potential use of the community development block grant for the Hurricane Matthew recovery, and the public hearing is open. I think I did that right.
Yeah. If I could, I'd like to make a few introductory remarks, and then I'm going to call on Dave Harris, who's our consultant with on CDBG, as well as our planning director, Chip Crumpler. As you know, I've informed y'all that the state received a fairly large block grant from Community Development, which is HUD, which is the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. This grant was somewhere just a little over, I believe, $200,000 or just below, $200 million, excuse me. A large portion of that has been reserved for the 4 counties that were hardest hit. Wayne County was one of those counties. And so what they did is notified us of this. We were invited to some meetings. But this thing has been on a very fast track. We actually had to submit something last week. On the 11th was the initial deadline. So we want to go over some of the things we're doing with you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chip and Dave and let y'all go through the process.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The purpose of the public hearing is to go over all the categories of community development block grant funding that you will see within the next, say, 12 months. The manager has described the first, basically, category of funding that was made available. And out of that $198 million, Wayne County had a set aside of $25,400,000. That's, of course, already been approved. We've submitted a preliminary proposal for it. A final application is due in September. And what we're doing here is going to discuss the availability of those funds. And as these different categories come online, there will be subsequent public hearings that will actually identify specific projects, specific budget activities for a specific category of funding. And what I want you to do is to keep in mind there's three categories, or three pots, or buckets in essence, of funds. The first one is $198 million that HUD allocated earlier this year. That's been sub-allocated to the state, and the county's got $25.4 million. The next category is the state's annual allocation of funds, $42 million. And as a result of Hurricane Matthew, they have taken and revamped that $42 million from what would normally be original appropriations. Out of that $42 million, the state has set aside $10 million for Hurricane Matthew recovery. It's going to be on a separate application cycle that had been established. They're saying that those activities would be all of the HUD type eligible activities. In fact, some which the county's participated in the past, housing, water, sewer, streets, drainage. It could be acquisition, it could be a number of other things. Hopefully infrastructure will be a part of that. In addition to that $10 million, the state has taken, there's a $21 million separate set aside for Department of Environmental Quality for just standard water sewer improvement extensions to serve low moderate income households. And that application cycle is due at the end of September. What they've done with that $21 million is prioritize $10 million of it for water sewer improvements within those 50 designated counties. Remember, there were 50 that were declared disaster. So the state's out of that $42 million and said, look, we're going to have a specific application cycle for all the counties to participate, in fact, even the towns too, for regular community development block grant kinds of activities. And then DEQ is going to take their $21 million and almost half, $10 million, is going to be prioritized. That application cycle is the same, guidelines are the same, everything else. It's just that they're going to make sure that out of that, there's $10 million that'll go to the state, go to those 50 counties. Interesting enough, for this year, the state has had deobligated funds out of the Department of Commerce's program. You may remember when I closed out the last project, it said, look, this is it for scattered site housing, this is it for neighborhood revitalization, all the money's going into infrastructure. Well, over the past probably 5 years, the state received $11 million in deobligated funds. They're now going to have an application cycle for an additional $11 million in community development block grant money, again, for Hurricane Matthew recovery. There are no guidelines, they're still working on what the application process is going to be. But in essence, if you look at it this way, this second bucket of funds, state CDBG funds, you're looking at $10 million in a category that includes all of the CDBG activities, $10 million in what is in essence an already established infrastructure application cycle that'll sit kind of, part of the scoring will direct it. And then this additional $11 million from all these past programs that had not been designated, the General Assembly says, okay, now's the time. We're going to keep developing. So $31 million in essence of state community development block grant money is going to be available within the next 12 months. The third bucket, and you may have heard of the recent appropriation by Congress of $37.96 million, let's say $38 million. $38 million, again, in congressional appropriation, HUD appropriation for community development block grant DR. And in fact, that first bucket is DR, disaster recovery. That $38 million just was announced. The state now has to go through a process to establish to HUD how they're going to spend it. There are a number of options that the state's looking at in terms of that $38 million. And my guess is that $38 million considering the state's got to amend its action plan, there's a public hearing process, the guidelines haven't even been established. It'll take probably the end of the year before even that cycle with HUD's completed. So we're going to be looking, probably sometime next year. The discussion has been, well, we can take that 38 million and simply add it to that 198 million and wind up with the same categories. In other words, the 4 impacted counties got, 75% of the funding and all the categories in place. We just increase the dollar amounts. But that doesn't address the unmet needs that everybody has been identifying since all of this came about. And so there's a big push to take and really allocate that 38 million to the unmet needs that either the state funding or the original funding didn't address. And this will be important. There'll be a chance for a public hearing at the state, a chance for comments. But what they're looking at out of that 38 million is taking almost 22 million for HMGP projects. We're short HMGP. We're short a lot. I mean, the county's request was 35 million, and we were funded 9. And that's pretty much representative across the state. I mean, they had a request for 27 houses for either acquisition or elevation, and the state only was able to fund around 800. So if they can take and allocate some of the HUD money and basically supplement the HMGP program with more acquisition and elevation, then we'll be able to accomplish a lot more. The county will be able to get more of those funding. And what you do is you already have a list that's established, and you'd simply go further down that list in terms of trying to address those needs. What they're also going to do, and this is important when you hear about this, need to support it. They're going to set aside $10 million in gap funding, relocation assistance. And I can tell you this, after doing this since the birth of '96, the FEMA acquisition program works great. You get pre-disaster market value. It really takes care of of those needs, and of course you get property that is not going to be damaged in the future. For a lot of families, though, in order to make that transition from what could be a lower value property, a property that may not be in the best condition, to something that's safe, decent, and sanitary, the cost is a little bit more. Cost of non-floodplain housing, in a lot of cases, a little bit more than a floodplain house. The gap money makes an acquisition program effective. When we've had relocation assistance where we could pay that little bit between where they were and a comparable replacement home, we've been able to get 90% participation for the buyout program without the gap money. And we've gone 15 years without gap money on our hurricane recovery projects that we've been administering from here to the mountains and back. You won't get 50% participation. I won't go into the characteristics, but a lot of it relates to simply the financial mechanics of how that works and where people are prior to a disaster and where they wind up afterwards. But the net effect is, without a little bit of relocation assistance, the buyout program is less than half as effective. The state recognizes this going on. The state's actually appropriated money for relocation assistance in the current year budget. That was just approved. That's going to be great. The county will have access to that. Adding another $10 million to that is going to be a big boost to making those funds available. So you'll hear more about that 38 million as decisions are made. It goes through the process, has to go to HUD and actually be approved. And at whatever point the county's in a position to be able to apply for those funds, there'll be a second public hearing, there'll be details, budgets, and et cetera. So those are your categories. Just keep them in mind, because it's easy for them to overlap. You can do HUD activities in all of them, and interesting enough, they will come with different requirements simply because the state funding each year is traditional HUD, the DR category. There's some exceptions and waivers. They're going to do things a little bit differently. This other 38 million, this third bucket, we've yet to see the guidelines as to what that would be. Now, I want to point out the next effort as the manager described, is the big one, is the 25.4 million. We will have a second public hearing in September to finalize that project, present it to the board. It'll have the budget, it'll have the activities, and et cetera, as to the, what the county's intentions will be to do with those funds. I want to point out now, though, that the reason there's subsequent funding available is because there was a lot that wasn't included in this category of funding. There's no water sewer at all in $200 million of HUD money. There's no acquisition or relocation assistance in any of these funds. The only elevation is if a house is beyond repair and you're going to replace it, like we've done in our scatter site program, we replace it on site. If it's in a 100-year floodplain, then you have some money, it's going to be a little bit higher, but it's still basically replacing a house on site. And we recognize that, so what it's going to do is it'll do housing repair, it'll do housing reconstruction, like our scatter site program, if it's beyond repair. It'll do homeowner, do rental. It'll provide, when the people are out of the houses, it'll provide some temporary relocation. There's funding in here for some public facilities, not infrastructure, public facilities. Some of the things that you can do is things like storm drainage, believe it or not, it's one of the few infrastructure activities we're looking at. Other ones are generators that are needed, some emergency shelters. Seven Springs Fire Department needs a new station. Those are kinds of things that we can do with this larger pot of money, the $25.4 million, as some of the things that are being discussed and considered. I will point out that the way that program is structured, there can be only one applicant from each county. Now, you've got the big 4 counties that are the 4 impacted that are getting 75% of the funds. Every municipality, every group, whatever, is going to fall under the county's application. We've been meeting, the county staff's been meeting regularly with the towns that have been affected, discuss it, they presented their proposals, and pretty much at the last meeting agreed this is what we want to go with when it goes in. So the application, you in essence be the recipient of a countywide HUD program that would include the city of Goldsboro. Seven Springs obviously is one of your other major towns, as well as Mount Olive with the Carver Culture Center, trying to make that a little bit more suitable emergency shelter, and also the towns of Fremont and Pikeville for some storm drainage needs. So that's going to be a big umbrella of activities that we'll try to cover under that large $25.4 million program. It'll be the first one in line. And then we will simply wait and see as these other categories are established. But the funding, the funding amounts are in place. At least we've got to that point. Now it's a matter of the state implementing each of those categories of funding. And that third bucket, that'll be sometime in next year before that really comes online. In the meantime, we hope the state will make the current CDBG allocation available before now the end of the year, and we'll see where the needs will go there. My guess is we'll be looking at some acquisition relocation money out of a lot of this.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make one other comment, because I'd like Dave to address this. One of the things that we looked at on this $25 million, as he indicated to you, we are short on the GP program, which is, that's the acronym basically for the buyout program and the elevation. And I think as y'all saw in the recent article in the paper, we had about 307 applications for buyouts. We had 24 elevation applications. So that put us at 331 applications. We were funded for about 85 to 86 buyouts in that. So as you can see, we've got a long way to go as far as helping our people who were most affected that want to go through the buyout program. And I think part of Dave's and Chip's and my frustration is that as we looked at this $25 million, one of the first things that went through my head was, well, we can use this to do more buyouts. That is specifically not allowed under this. So I want to be clear about that. I had the same reaction, Joe. In fact, I had a little stronger reaction, but the problem is that they are still trying to wrestle with where to come up with that money. I guess as far as the citizens are concerned that are adversely affected with that, we're trying everything we can do to get more money. The state is trying to get more money. The governor's office is trying to get more money. The legislature is. So they're trying to get it through Congress. I think there's also some talk about the legislature may do something more. And then this third bucket that Dave was just talking about, that may be a way, if we can get HUD to agree, use some of that for buyout money, for FEMA buyout. But the way it sits right now, the one we're holding this public hearing on today, I just want to be clear about, it cannot be used to supplement the HUD buyout program. Is that
Right.
okay?
Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I had one. You had mentioned that in this new grant, this new block, that there could be some generators or something like that in some of our shelters. Can you go into that just a...
Actually, in the 25.4 million that's already been allocated to you, and it's simply a matter of presenting the plan as to how you're going to spend it. Generators are eligible in that program under public facilities, and we're looking at including that generator request. There were 3 shelters in Goldsboro that needed generators, and of course the Mount Olive Carver Cultural Center served as the central emergency shelter for that area, and they need generator also, as well as other improvements, because that's the town just got the deed to that property, and there's still improvements that need to be made. For them, it's improvements in, there's like 7 structures, improvements in all the buildings plus a generator for emergency shelter, so that's 4.
Sure. Follow up. Would that include maybe a middle school or a high school that is inadvertently elected to use as a shelter? In other words, we can pick certain permanent places to put these generators, but at the shelters and some of the middle schools and high schools, do we not need a way of providing power to those if it goes out? Because we get that issue.
Well,
Those
that's
are
exactly what
3 schools.
That's exactly what we're looking at.
It
Now,
is 3
there's a
schools.
possibility that one of them may be a community center in Goldsboro.
Right.
But that's exactly what we're looking at, and the reason we want to look at middle schools and high schools is they have gyms. And so they have shower facilities and that sort of thing. So you primarily want to use those. The other thing that Kendall and I have discussed is we'd like to have these to be portable, because depending on where it hits and what happened, everybody's kind of living the last thing, which was a flood, but we could have a tornado, anything could happen.
Yeah.
If you pick a particular school, that may be the one that gets hit. So what we want to do is have these portable on trailers, and then we would pick the schools that we would like to see done that way, but it may be more than we have generators for, but we want to have them pre-wired for the automatic transfer switch. Because what we want is, we want to be able to plug and play. We drive up, and in 10 minutes, we're up and running.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to go through bringing in an electrician to wire all this and everything like that. So that's what we had in mind, and what we have discussed with the city manager in Goldsboro is that if they go forward with the Herman Street Community Center, they're still deciding whether to build that or not, but if they build that, that's an area we think would make a good central shelter, and would have, adequate restroom facilities and that sort of thing. So we would try to look at one of these generators there.
So that will be a part of our total emergency plan.
Yes. And we're looking at this, and the other thing that David stressed, and I want to stress it, we're looking at this in total.
Really?
We obviously have one of those generators reserved for Mount Olive, because as he said, that's their intent with Carver. And I think that's a great plan. We all know that in a flood, 117 gets taken out of the equation, and basically Mount Olive is on its own for a while. And so we need to have a shelter set up down there that they can activate immediately. And we will look, as far as our emergency management people, we will look to the town of Mount Olive to help us get that prepared and all of that. Now, we'll send in our social workers and our nurses to man it and everything, but we want to have an agreement, which basically we have a gentleman's agreement now, that if something happens, Mount Olive, we're going to be using that Carver site. So we want to get it up to speed with everything that Charles Brown and the town think they need.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
You have something?
Well, before I try to ask the question, Dave, I had gotten a call too, and I'm just wondering, is this open to the audience to ask questions?
Yeah, it's public hearing.
And therefore, I yield to someone in the audience who may have a question that might be one that I might try to ask, but if there's something specific that out there that an audience member need to ask Dave while he's here, because he's the expert, and you're here.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Sir?
We're gonna do that.
I suppose my comment is this. I want us all to stop and think a minute. There are hundreds of families in Wayne County that have lost their homes. And here we are almost a year later, and we haven't even decided how they're going to allocate the monies or what the restrictions are. That really is sad to see. The dollars should be helping families restore their home lives and their homes. Here I see on the state level that rather than assisting those families to get back in the home, we're going to put restrictions on it and say, no, it cannot be used for that. These things, in my mind, are totally unacceptable. But again, if that's the guidelines that they give us and that's the rules whereby we must play, then so be it. I suppose that's the way we're going to have it. But I do strongly object that the state would put those restrictions on there that we can't help more families. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I wanted to ask a question.
I want to clarify
Okay,
that.
go ahead.
That was HUD.
That was HUD.
That 198 million.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, because my phone was going to be ringing from the state. So HUD can call me. But HUD put those restrictions on there.
Whatever reason, in fact, HUD designated a number of categories there that, there's going to be $7.5 million to build homeless shelters. And we don't have a homeless shelter problem. We don't need a homeless shelter to serve 200 people. Neither does Tarboro, and neither does Robeson, but it's set aside, it's there. And there are some HUD priorities that were injected in, and HUD's thinking was, okay, we're gonna let HMGP deal with the buyout stuff, and we're gonna exclude our money to non-buyout kinds of activities. And the bottom line is, there's just, it doesn't work that way. The need is in the buyouts, the relocation, getting those people back in homes and et cetera. And that's where the first wave should have been. The second wave could have been homeless shelters and some of the other things.
But we haven't even started elevating homes yet. We haven't done any of that because we don't have the requirement.
No, we have, you're right.
You submitted application.
We have submitted the application, now we gotta wait and see if the state approves it, and then that'll take care of 86 of them. But I agree, that's been our frustration with it, is with the regulations from the federal government, we can't use this money, and I agree with Dave. The first wave should have been take care of the people who are in line for the buyout and the elevation, because those are the most hurt people. But that's not what they're allowing you to do, and that's why I wanted to make sure I emphasized on the front end that as you're conducting this public hearing, that while that makes common sense, it's not allowed.
My question was this, you may not be able to answer it yet. My phone's already been ringing because a lot of people are receiving letters now that they didn't qualify, or there wasn't enough money, I guess, to take care of the whole bucket. My question is, now that other dollars are coming available going forward, those applications they submitted previously, do they need another application, or would be considered in line? You have an answer to that.
Yeah.
What's the mechanism?
If the state was to get supplemental HMGP money, hazard mitigation grant funds from FEMA, everything stays in place just like it is. if they make acquisition money available under HUD, there will be an individual application process that people would have to go through for that separate pot of money, because from the HUD funding, only those at a low moderate income are going to be able to qualify. So in essence, there would be an income test for the HUD money. There's not for FEMA. For FEMA, hey, you were flooded, if we got money, we'll buy you out, that's it. So to get to where you've got an income test, which is all of HUD's money, then there'd be an application process for that too. But that Chip's got all their names and addresses, and it'd be a matter, we can send all that to them, keep them informed. The public would be informed, because it's not gonna be just them, it's gonna be anybody within the county is gonna be able to apply for whatever those categories are.
Well, you answered my second question when you feel.
So
like
if I, Mr. Chairman, if I hear you, 307 people were eligible, well, met a category, and 86 were approved, and those applications are being sent forward to.
Well, when we say been approved, they've been submitted.
Submitted to.
I think we're still waiting to hear from the state. They have approved it?
Well, they're going forward to FEMA.
They're going, okay.
So those 86 are being forwarded to FEMA
Yes.
for a decision. Okay. So at least 221, if I
So that
calculate right.
list was, you know, the priority was homeowner occupied. So homeowner occupied in a flood zone and greater than 50% damaged. Okay, that's where the money ran out. No elevations were funded, no tenant occupied properties were funded at this point in time. I would like to make a point that when the hurricane occurred and the flooding event occurred, we were proactive as a county to put our pre-applications in the Disaster Resource Center even before the state took action to make any process available to the public. So we've captured a lot of applicants at the time of the disaster right on through. So it was 331 total applicants. 24 of those were elevations. They're at this point in time receiving no assistance.
And what he's telling you is that's a microcosm of what's going on in all 50 counties. There
Yes.
simply isn't enough money.
To clarify that 2,700 properties in the 50 counties were applied for hazard mitigation grant program. 800 were funded. 2,700 applications, only 800 of those funded.
Mr. Earl.
I too, I'm more alarmed and concerned about the buyout program than the CDD, BG, it sounds like you got it under control. And you just explained a lot of the priorities and how it's weighted. So I'll just get with Chip after the meeting and go into more details with him on that.
Clarify that. So if we've got someone that's here in Wayne County and they have applied to elevate their homes, they're not going to get funded.
At this point in time, there's no funding
At this
available.
point in time, is there an opportunity in your minds that those funds may be available?
Yes, under the community development program for low moderate income people, you'd be able to go in.
So they may lose it on this round, but they may get it on another round.
Yes.
Okay.
And the state, remember the two categories, the state has an open, continual request to FEMA for more traditional HMGP funds. In other words, the $100 million was not enough. Give us another $300 million, and we will make it work. That is probably going to get kind of clouded a little bit because of the amount of HUD money that's available, where HUD says, well, yeah, you can do it for low-income people. We'll see how it works out. But the state, remember, a lot of this is coming out of emergency management. They are dedicated to the acquisition elevation component, and they're simply going after it as hard as they can. But fortunately, there'll be some community development block grant funds for acquisition and elevation also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just to plug in on history just for a minute. In the previous hurricane that caused there to be a lot of FEMA activity, in Wayne County, did everyone wind up getting served, or there's always a category, is there a leftover category from a previous time that they get served. The reason I ask this is, what's the prospect that some of these folk that have made applications will never get served? What's the,
We don't know that at this point. We're having to wait on future appropriations, either from FEMA or from the state. And
but that's why
we
I
can't
asked
sit here and
No,
tell you
but
that.
I know what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, but that's why I asked about previous history based upon a repeating of the possibility.
Well, I can say this. Due to the maps that were available in 99 and due to the priorities that were in place in 99, there were properties that were not helped that are due to the flood maps changing that are eligible today. So some of those 85 were properties that were not assisted in 1999. And that's simply because one of the priorities then were the properties had to be located in a 100-year flood hazard. And according to the maps in place in 1999, they were not. So they were just put out.
Mr. Bailey.
I just have one short question. Am I reading that some of the issues that we're having, it's not all coming from the state, but a lot of it is from the federal government, is that correct? A lot of the,
yes.
You've got two federal agencies with different emphasis. FEMA is interested in hazard mitigation, which is getting people out of the way of the flooding and all of that. And so their emphasis is going to be on the buyout program, the elevation program, and that accomplishes getting the people most damaged taken care of, but it also has the effect of now you've cleared out any of those properties in the way of a flood. That's FEMA's thing. HUD, by definition, works with low and moderate income people on housing issues, and that's why so much of this is being reserved for housing type things. They do some infrastructure, but primarily it's for housing. So is that a fair statement? That's the difference in emphasis in those two federal agencies. And so consequently, this $198 million has come from HUD, so the emphasis is on housing. If it had been $198 million coming from FEMA, we could have accommodated, if not everybody, a whole lot more.
So,
I was getting ready to say, it's about time we let the public comment on this thing. So I know this gentleman right back here in the back, he had something he wanted to say. If you want to come up and comment.
Yes, sir.
Come on up to the podium if you would, sir.
Sorry.
Come on up to the podium if you would. And if you'll give us your name and address, phone number, that kind of stuff.
I'm Tim Harrington. I live on Harrington Ridge Road. I got flooded in 99. I got flooded in Matthew. But Mr. Daugherty is taking the thunder out of what I had to say. Like he says, it's been about a year. I've got a wife at home, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. My floors are buckled, half electricity don't work. Jackson & Sons come out, looked at a heat pump, that'll be 10 grand to replace everything. I don't know which way to hop. I put in for the buyout. I love where I'm at because I'm close to the base, I'm military retired, I use commissary DX and everything. But the insurance, in 99, I took care of everything myself. I didn't put in a claim. I was so stupid to just think that I'll take care of everything myself and then my homeowner's insurance won't go up. I didn't know I was going to get put into the flood zone, where in 99, my house payment was $650. As of a couple of months ago, I finally got it lowered, but I was paying $1,150 a month. Most of that was for flood insurance. That's people on the coast don't pay that kind of stuff. And that's the only reason I put in for the buyout, is like, who wants a house that's got that kind of flood insurance on it? If somebody would tell me, no, I got $25,000, I'm sitting on insurance because I had flood insurance. but I don't want to put in a $10,000 unit. I haven't even got to my floors, it's all buckled, and half electrical and everything. And where am I going to put my wife? Well, the construction is being done. Who, is anybody around here wants to rent me a home or a place for 3 or 4 months? Everybody wants a year lease. And like you said, it's been 10 months, and it sounds like it's going to be another year. I mean, I don't know if I should go ahead and start taking care of the floors and stuff like that there myself. It don't look like I'm going to be elevated. Really, I don't know no more about which way I should go or what I should do now than when I walked in here. I guess that's typical of the government. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else?
Morning. Ray Urban, 303 East April Lane, Goldsboro. I'm with the Long-Term Recovery Group, and we've come and spoke to you before. And we heard about the hearing, so we thought we'd come today. Barbara's here with me. And maybe this is a good time to explain really how the Long-Term Recovery Group works. Maybe a little better than we did last time. Our job is to help people with their unmet needs. And so after all the government programs have been exhausted or whatever, then we try and find the resources to help them solve their problem. And we work closely with the Lutheran Services Carolinas, which when we were here last time, I think there was some confusion about that. The state awarded a contract, disaster case management program contract to the Lutheran Services Carolinas. They were awarded the contract. And their job is to go out and meet with folks like this gentleman back here and collect their information. They have case managers. Right now there are 4 case managers working in Wayne County. And we work closely with them. We just collaborate. So their job is to go out and get the information and then help folks like this gentleman back here get their life back to where it was before the hurricane and the flood. And they may bring a case to us, and then we work with whatever resources are available. Basically, it's faith-based communities or other organizations that may have some funds that could help gentlemen like this solve their problem. Last time we were here, we had Chip McGurk with us, who's with the North Carolina Baptist Men. And I don't know if you're familiar with what they're doing in the county, but they're working with us as well. They've worked on probably 25 to 30 homes, helping people to get their homes back to where they were or solve their problem, whatever it is. So the Long-Term Recovery Group is this volunteer organization that try and fits in to where we find the unmet need. And so that's what we're doing. So we just want to stay involved, try and keep you guys informed of what we're doing. We have gotten a few grant dollars, and we're continuing to work with many clients like this. The Lutheran Services Carolinas folks tell us there's somewhere around 100 cases they're working, but there are many, many more than that in Wayne County. We have the FEMA data, we can go through it and we can analyze it. And so we're just continuing to work. I just want to step up and remind you that we're still here. We'd like to be involved. We'd like to be helpful to folks. We're a 100% volunteer organization, other than we're looking to hire a part-time director. One question I did have for you, are you working with the Lutheran Services Carolinas folks to help in any way? I mean, they are the disaster case management people that have been contracted by the state to interact with the citizens that need help. I'm just wondering how that works.
We aren't at this point right now. We're trying to structure the funding as much as we can to get it within the county, based on the categories that they have available. We recognize the number of unmet needs that there are out there.
That's all I got.
Thanks, sir. There goes someone over here. Anyone else? I'm sorry, Barbara, go on.
I'm Barbara Stiles. I'm the chair of long-term disaster recovery, and Ray did a great job explaining what we do, but I did want to add the Lutheran disaster case management is different than just regular casework. They will work with the families and the individuals from the very beginning of their disaster recovery till the end, whether it's a rebuild, whether it's mental health issues, and there are just so many different needs that are out there. So I would encourage you to contact us today if you're not already in this program, or any other folks that have been impacted by the flood, because the recovery is more than just casework, and it will will do the best to meet all the needs of any particular family or individual.
Anyone else? You be next, Mr. Wright.
For once, I'm not talking about Boston. I've been where this man has been. FEMA did not give me any elevation. It came out of my pocket. That lady right there was at my house more times than I can count. We have got people out in our community and all around that will willingly come and work. I know for a fact because they did at my house. They came in there, they worked for free. My house is now elevated. Nobody paid for the elevation. It came out of my pocket. It can be done. We need to stop whining and crying about what the federal government ain't doing. And we as citizens need to get out and help our people out there. It can be done. She has done it, and these other people. They have brought people in. People came in from South Carolina, professional people, contractors, and worked on my house for free. They came in by busloads. They help us out there, and people will help us. And I know how he feels, because I lived in an old trailer that had been flooded, that I literally got in there and cut the carpet out with a hacksaw. Truthfully, and I stayed in there because there was no other place. I didn't go out there and whine and cry about it. And that's why I will fight for my house. And I'll stay there. And I understand how he feels about wanting to stay where he's at. You know, it can be done. And if we don't get on the federal government, then let's use our public and the people who can do it. I went to my house one day, and the CEO of a hospital was working in what is now my bedroom. We can all do it. We might not have the funds, but there's a lot of businesses who will donate stuff. Most of the stuff that went in my house came out of my pocket, but I was fortunate to have the money to do it. And it's amazing how God will open doors and help us to get whatever we need. A lot of stuff is out there for free that we can get and help these people. Until you've been through, walking through the water like I have and some of these other people, you don't understand it. And it's out there and it's available. And we need to go out there and work with her. She could take the money that is being handed out, and with her resources and those people, it's amazing how much can be done. We need to support these organizations and bring in people that are willing to work for free. But we don't need to bring them in from other places. Our churches are willing. The Baptist men have done a marvelous job. So let's look out for ourselves.
Thank you, Ms. Stanley.
Thank you.
Mr. Rock, you come on up.
Charles, right? I just want to share, when I heard about this through the newspaper, I think one of the things that got us off on the wrong trajectory is in our newspaper and a willingness to interview our officials, they put a lot of different programs together in one news article. So a lot of people read that, and the main thrust of it seemed to be concerning the buyouts and the 307 and the breakdown. And then near the middle of the article, it talked about this new money that's coming in, and it kind of convoluted. And I noticed from the beginning of the commissioner's discussion, and I'm not one here to say you can discuss whatever you want to discuss, but I noticed that we started talking about a federal program with the buyout instead of what we were supposed to be here to talk about, which was the HUD program, the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. Having said that, there was an action plan that was signed by George Sherrod, North Carolina State of Commerce, April 21st. It's about a 100-page document, and it's very available online, but it sheds a lot of light on how this money is supposed to be used. And it's some very good points and very good things that this money can be used for, this 25.5. It can be used for housing needs. So it just cannot be used for things that another government agency is paying for. That's where, but it can be used, if I'm understanding it correctly, up to $50 to $75,000 for home repairs. And throughout it, it talks about two words that came across to me. It came across as unmet needs. So any citizens, the way I understand it, can fill out an application, and if they didn't, but this grant is not going to allow you to duplicate. So if you already got money for FEMA to do something in your house, and it costs, you got $25,000 for FEMA, and it might have cost you $35,000 to fix it. If you had those $10,000 in receipts still in your pocket or still in your home, you can use part of this grant and fill out the application that says, hey, I have unmet needs here because I had $50,000 worth of damage. I only got from my insurance and from FEMA $30,000. I had to come out my pocket. My understanding of this is that a citizen can apply for those unmet financial monies used, or if a person wants to fix their house and can abandon the thought, well, hey, I may not get a buyout, but let me try to get money to fix my house. I can apply to get money to fix the electrical, to fix the plumbing, to fix the roof, and stay in my house. So I don't want, I just think it needs to be a little more emphasis on what this money was appropriated for. And from my understanding, the three core aspects of recovery under this grant was housing, infrastructure, and economic development. And it also allows some of this money to be used for apartment people. You have a developer that wants to build a 12-family unit apartment outside of the flood area. Some of this money could help to supplement that project along with a developer. So it's a lot of key things. It's very long, so I doubt a public hearing, but I did want to hear a little bit more, and I think the commissioners, in all fairness, should hear a little bit more positive things about this 25-point million, because there is 7 programs, if I'm understanding correctly. I just named the top 3 that's on there is Homeowners Recovery Program, Small Rental Repair, and Multi-Family Rental Housing. So there's money there to help the homeowners, but it all falls under what's called an unmet need. So they're not going to duplicate money that you already got from your insurance company, that you already got from FEMA, but they keep emphasizing unmet needs. Now that brings me to my second point. If indeed one of the things they did, they broke down the areas, and it was almost equal between the amount of people in the city that suffered significant damage versus the amount of, I think it was 541 total. The county had 263, Goldsboro alone had 251. So it's almost 50-50 between the city and the rest of the county, the city of Goldsboro and the rest of the county. So one of the things I was hoping to hear today is whether when this money, as I understand it, is for homeowners to help, that's the major thrust of this money, who's going to be handling the logistics of accepting all these applications, processing them, making sure it's filled out correctly, and trying to speed up the process. Because what I found out is, yes, we wait a long time to get these monies, but once these monies get here, it's the process of having the staff and the structure in place to quickly, because you may have 200, 300, you may have about 500 people once the full intent of this grant is realized that want to apply to say, yes, I have unmet needs. And my unmet needs may be, or may have been something, in the way the grant reads, it may have been something that you discovered after the fact. You didn't know that water had gotten into an appliance or air conditioner or some unit or something. And now you discover it. As I understand this grant, you can go back and say, hey, now I would like something new or have this replaced because I did not know this was damaged or wasn't discovered. So it's a lot of good things that's available with this CDR, DR money. And I don't know where to set. I had down, and maybe this has already changed, 80% of the award was going to the 4 most impacted counties, which is Robinson, Cumberland, Edgecombe, and Wayne. And I had a 31.8 million that we was getting. Maybe that has been changed to 25.4. And the only other thing I did want to say that the floodplain plays a very key role in all these grants. The city has a grant that helps people as well. And I won't speak for what the city, but it is for people that lives in Goldsboro and Wayne County. So even though the city communication, human relations department, community relations is working the grant, it is for all the people in Wayne County to help with housing repairs and things of that nature. So there are grants out there, but with that grant, the priority goes for people who live outside of the 100-year floodplain. With this grant, it seems like it's for people who live within the 100-year floodplain. So that being said, I would just urge all citizens, once this grant, and I don't even know if they had a chance or opportunity, I thought they was going to go through and actually show what this grant, what kind of money was available, what it's going to be for. But my understanding is that a large portion of it is going to be for homeowners to do repairs, unmet repairs, people who may not have insurance, who may not have qualified for FEMA money, who may not have gotten an SBA loan. But those are the elements that you've had to exhaust. So they're not going to give someone $50,000 as a homeowner if you already got money from your insurance company, or if you already got money from FEMA, or if you already had a loan with SBA. But if you can show where after receiving all these monies, there's still some unmet needs that you had to come out of your pocket, then that may be recoverable under the regulations of this
Mr. Rocker,
grant.
could you wrap it up?
Yeah, and the only last thing I know, but I read about 300 pages to say this little bit, so give me a little slack here. And the only one thing I want to say
we have
too,
no obligation. We have quite a bit of things.
I understand that.
So if you would
And the
wrap
only
it up,
other
please.
one thing I want to say is that there's been a lot of talk about the floodplains, and if anything we can do, as you can do as commissioners, is try to get whoever's in charge of registering, doing our floodplain maps to come in and say, hey, can you come to Wayne County, please, and give us an updated floodplain so everybody in the county knows what floodplain they in, and some other company like Duke or somebody won't say, well, we say this is the wrong floodplain, and everybody say, oh, okay, but what about me? I would like to say my floodplain might have been wrong. So if we as commissioners, once long range, if we can get some current maps, because that has a lot to do with money, it has a lot to do with insurance, it has a lot to do with how our citizens are going to be able to qualify or not qualify for certain monies. And I see I've extended my time, but I had a lot to say. But like I said, I probably read about 500 pages over the last couple of days.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adcock, you had a question earlier, or do you remember what it was now?
I don't remember what it was now. But while I've got it, and it may not make any difference, but the public notice that was sent out for this hearing, I don't know whether anyone will be using it for reference for phone numbers, no. But if so, the phone number for the clerk to our board is wrong on the public notice.
Okay. Because we do have another obligation and we got right much to get through, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing today. We can readdress this at another date, I guess we could, is that correct? If we need to.
We could, and there will be a second.
That's correct. So today, I want to thank everybody that did come and everybody who spoke. And believe me, this is an issue that's on all our minds. The public hearing is closed. Thank you.
We don't have any time for any comments at all?
We are really pressed for time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Can I just say 2 words? That it's a shame. It's a
We're
shame.
going over to.
It's a shame. I agree with Commissioner Dart. It's a shame and disgrace that our people in our county are in the shape they're in, and I'm going to say this: the people up at the state level and the federal level, they need to change their attitude, because it seems to me that they have this attitude, it's not an emergency until it happens to me. And we need to do something about this, whether it's resolutions, complaints, get in touch with our congressman, our elected officials. To me, as a citizen of Wayne County and as a Christian, this is unacceptable. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One thing, Mr. Dave, do you have your presentation in hard copy? I mean, is there a place that we can read the facts and figures of what you?
No, it's to my head.
Okay, all right.
I've got bits and pieces of budgets and things like that I can share with you, just.
No, I was looking more for overview of not that 500 pages that Mr. Wright talked about reading. I didn't want, I need a condensed 5 pages that would, bullets that would say, this is what you can do, that what you can do, this can't happen, so forth. You know. That's what I was looking for.
We have some information we had to provide when we were working with the towns. You know, we worked with them,
Okay.
we shared information. I think there's some of that, they can provide some of the description of the various activities.
Thanks.
Mr. Fontana, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to come on up. You've been waiting patiently, and I know you got some information you need to share with us.
Okay, thank you. In light of the time, I won't read every page of this report. Actually, the Community Transportation Service Plan, or CTSP, actually started from this commissioner's group. Back in February of 2016, you put together a list of priorities for the calendar year, and one of them was to look at the feasibility of extending a GWTA bus route north out of Goldsboro and south out of Goldsboro. At the time, I knew that Wayne County was due for a 5-year study from NCDOT. We were on the calendar for 2017, so I contacted the folks in Raleigh and asked them if they could move it up a year, and they agreed. So what we ended up doing was having a consultant come in, and they looked at several things. They looked at the route feasibility, looked at a succession plan for when I retire. How are we going to have a smooth transition so that it flows very easily and nothing gets dropped in the middle. Looked at our organizational structure, looked at some technology upgrades, growth opportunities, and a 5-year financial plan. So just quickly, as far as the route feasibility, it was pretty much determined through the work also with a steering committee that was made up of various leaders in the community, the hospital, the Development Alliance, the pickle plant, several other groups, that there really wasn't a large generator in the northern area. Mr. Mayo participated, I believe you agreed with that. So we're just going to continue to serve that part of the county with our demand response van service. As far as south, it looked like there actually was a demand enough to recommend a circulator route through Mount Olive. We've worked with the community, and this route would circulate through the town and connect to Goldsboro a couple of times during the day. And right now that's on hold because of some funding, lack of funding availability. As far as the succession plan, we are going ahead and look at hiring an assistant executive director sometime later this fall with the intent of coming on board in January, and that person would essentially shadow me for 9 to 12 months, and then when I did retire, would more than likely be in a position to take over that role. Organizationally wise, looked at all the functions and tasks that everybody does in the department. One area that we thought could be more efficiently operated, my HR manager, a lot of the functions that my HR manager performs are similar to functions that both the city and the county's HR departments do. So we would, the plan recommends that possibly either on the contract with either the city or the county, some of those functions can be performed by their HR departments. That would free up my HR manager to focus on some stuff that is just transit related, but also transition a lot of the safety programs and training programs that right now are done by our operations manager, that really his workload is pretty much so packed that he's not able to emphasize the safety concerns that we want to make sure that everything is operated safely. So that was one of the organizational restructuring recommendations. Technology upgrades. We do have a grant in the works to replace our office computers that are all about 6 or 7 years old, and they're getting pretty obsolete. We've already implemented some technology. There's a program called IVR, which is interactive voice recognition. All of our van riders that are scheduled for a trip the next day get a call the night before, sort of a reminder call like your doctor normally does, telling you that you do have a trip scheduled. They also get a call about 15 minutes prior to their pickup time. The intent of this program is to eliminate no-shows. No-shows cost everybody money. A lot of our clients are Medicaid recipients. The Medicaid program will not pay for no-shows, so that's a cost that goes directly to the county. So if we could reduce the number of no-shows, we save the county that fee. We've also working with NC State with their ITRI program to implement what's called Google Transit. Pretty much if you go to Google Maps or MapQuest or anything like that right now, you want to know how to go from Goldsboro to Florida, it'll plot out a map. Well, on Google Transit, there's also, or Google Maps, there's also an option of if you wanted to walk or if you wanted to use public transportation. So now we're going to be on that map, and it will be on our website, so that anybody either coming to this area or already in this area and wants to know how to get from one place to the other, they can just click on the map and they'll be informed as to which bus routes to take, where the nearest bus stop is, and what time to be there. So we're working on that, and that should be online within the next month or so. The plan also recommended that we continue to work on our out-of-county coordination. Right now, 2 days a week we go to the Triangle area, and 2 days a week we go to the Greenville area. Well, both our vans, when we go to the Triangle, obviously go through Johnston County, and Greenville we go through Greene County. So the plan recommends that we work with both of those counties to possibly coordinate with picking up their clients while we're going through their county, which would make more efficient use of our vehicles and free up their vehicles so they could be used to train in Goldsboro. We were also working with Greyhound, and we're real close to having Greyhound add another stop in Goldsboro. Right now, they're at the truck stop on 117. They are working to add our transfer center as a stop, and what would happen is they'd install a kiosk, just like an ATM, where folks could ride our bus, our city buses, get to the transfer center, and then if they needed to purchase Greyhound tickets, they could purchase them right there. It would be cash free, so it would only take credit cards, but it would make it easier for them to access the Greyhound system rather than right now where it's located for folks that don't have transportation. It's hard to get out there. Some growth areas, we talked about the fact that it's still a lot of the folks in the rural portion of the county, Mount Olive and up north, Pikeville, Fremont, are not aware of our services. We really need to focus on marketing those areas. We've done some of that. We're going to continue to do that. They saw a need for extended bus service later in the evening, and we're working with that. We've agreed to extend a couple of bus routes in Goldsboro for 1 hour. We're also looking at improving the amenities at some of the bus stops, adding some new bus shelters and some benches. So that's it. I mean, we've got a bunch going on. The consultants work real close with us and with our steering committee. And anybody have any questions? I know that was brief and fast, but any questions?
Questions? Just a comment, Mr. I know Mr. Kamara and I sit on the GWTA board, and I just want to commend Mr. Fontana and all his staff for we're having a really good year, city and county. But as he mentions at all of our meetings, don't put on a 10-gallon hat, because gas prices may go up. And a lot of our savings is because of gas prices, fuel prices are down. So thank you for all you're doing, and I know you're a short timer, so we got to figure out some way to try to get a replacement in this year. So thank you, Fred.
Thank you. Want to go on with the rope application? Okay. Every year NCDOT has what's called the ROPE program, Rural Operating Assistance Program. They've been doing it for probably about 20 years now. Each county gets allocated a set amount of money for 3 categories: elderly, disabled, transportation assistance, or EDTAP. There's employment money, and there's RGP, rural general public money, which is available to serve people outside of the urban area of Goldsboro. The first 2 categories are countywide categories. For this year, the state allocation for Wayne County is $216,392. That is the same amount as in previous years. Since the money gets allocated to the county rather than the transit system, every year I need to come to you guys and ask that you essentially reallocate the state money from the county and distributed to us to use for the various programs. We work with social services a lot, senior services, voc rehab, Veterans Affairs, Wayne Opportunity Center. So most of the agencies, health departments in the county we serve, and again, Mr. Cromartie and Mr. Mayor are on our board, so they make sure that we spend it properly. So if you so feel fit, I do need a motion so that we can go ahead and proceed with the application. Not so much for the application, but for the allocation of the funds within the application.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion on the floor, is any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're up for, Alan, I think you're up. You got 2 minutes, my kid.
If you're long-winded, you're fired.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you're in a hurry, but I did want to address Mr. Wright's comments about the adjustment for property tax. And thank you very much for that question. I mean, that's something citizens need to know, because we took the same approach that we did during Floyd, but this time we had a lot more flooding than we had in Floyd. So there are people that had not been through this before. So what happens is, during the month of January, that's our listing time. We had a lot of citizens that came in and told us during that time about their flooding that happened, which that's what they're supposed to do, taxing the property. Of course, during that time, a lot of these people were still misplaced, and that was the last thing on their mind was come talk to the tax office. So what we did, just like we did in Florida, we took our appraisers, we went out in the last 2 weeks of December, first week of January. January is our snapshot date. That's when we determine the value for the property for the full year. Whatever is there January 1st is what we tax. So we took our appraisals, went down to 7th Spring, and started there, worked all the way up the river, through Goldsboro, up to Princeton, all the way up, and we have some isolated pockets such as Hood Drive in different areas. We visited all those areas, adjusted the values accordingly based on what we saw. We saw some properties that had some insulation and some ductwork damage all the way to the whole house was gone. So we made adjustments accordingly to that. And we reflected on the tax bill that you're going to receive in the next couple of weeks. We did our billing yesterday. Those bills will probably be in the mail probably by next Monday, hopefully. And what I encourage people, did we get 100% of the adjustments done? Probably not. We did the best we could working with the planning and the inspections office of the city and of the county. So I encourage people, if you get your tax bill and you did have flooding damage that was not repaired as of January 1st, you need to call our office if you don't see an adjustment on that bill, and we can definitely go out and take a look at it after the fact. We did the best we could with what we had to work with, but obviously there's probably a few we missed. So those values, those adjustments will stand. We'll go back out at the end of the year, look at all the properties again, and all the repaired properties will actually put back to proper tax value. The ones that are still damaged, they'll keep the same adjustment for the next year until that damage either FEMA buys them out and the property is demolished, or the damage is repaired. So I hope that answers the questions for the public. And again, thank you, Mr. Wright, for bringing that up. Thank you very much.
So let me tag on for that just a second.
Yes, sir.
So that if you had damage, hurricane damage to your property, and the insurance company, you got nothing from the insurance company, but you had to repair this property, there's an adjustment that can be made?
No, sir.
That's not what you mean?
No, sir. What it is as of January 1st, if you had unrepaired damage as of that snapshot date, we can adjust your tax value based on what's there January 1st. Doesn't matter who pays for what or what's been done. We're just strictly looking at the property itself and what's there January 1st.
Right.
And so any unrepaired damage is January 1st.
It's past January.
Correct. The hurricane happened in October. January 1st is our snapshot. And that we have to let, just like if you build a new house, if it's not there January 1st, we don't tax you on it. If you start construction in January, you don't get taxed for the next year. So it's whatever's there January 1st, what you get taxed on each year. And so we went out and looked at all the properties that were damaged and adjusted the values accordingly the best we could based on what was there, what we saw January 1st. And then we'll go back again this January 1st and see what's happened to the property, if it's been repaired or if it's still like it was, and then we'll adjust it accordingly for the next year.
If on January 1st, you were not aware that the property was damaged, and therefore made no contact with the tax office, do you have room, so there's no room to correct that?
Yes, sir, like I said, we try to do the best we could based on what people told us and what we saw. But if there are people that we missed, we'll be glad that once you get your tax bill and you see no adjustment, but you had damage and it was not repaired January 1st, contact our office. We'll go back out and meet with the taxpayer, and we will adjust it based on what we find. We can do that now, yes, sir.
Yep.
And I'm sure a lot of people have, that we can tell, we work with Chip very closely as far as what was damaged and stuff like that, so we can verify most any damage that was done to different areas. But we got a lot of them, we got the majority of them, I guarantee you, we adjusted a lot of them.
So if you're having to replace a roof that was damaged during the surface after the hurricane, and you having to repair that, that's illegal.
If it was not repaired January 1st.
That's right.
Correct.
That's what I meant.
Correct. But again, a roof damage is I want to dispute that, but that's a minor damage compared to what the flooding we saw as far as people's houses demolished, stuff like that. So we were not looking for shingles off here and there. We were looking for major damages.
Cumulatively, if it's cumulative, if the roof damage is cumulative, it calls for another roof. It doesn't feel like minor to me.
No. Well, I understand that.
It feels minor to you, but not to me.
I understand that.
Okay.
But we were not looking around, because you can have a windstorm now and damage your shingles. Most people go out and either patch it or go out and repair it right then, most roof damage. But if it was caused by the hurricane and it was just left there leaking, then it caused more than just roof damage. So that's what we were looking for, stuff like that. But again, if you have documentation that your roof that you had roof damage that was not repaired, call us. We'll be glad to take a look at it.
Thanks, sir.
Sure. Does that help out, Mr. Wright? Okay. Thank you, sir.
We move on, Mr. Chairman.
Down to the business. Each year, we're required by the statute to provide you where we were, a snapshot date on June 30th, and we're here to do that today. We have some slides, I think, Carol. Okay, and it basically is required by statute that we do this each year. And it must be accepted before I can go out and do my job for next year. So that's what we're here today for, to get your approval. And we must provide a report of diligent efforts to collect unpaid taxes. Next slide is our numbers, and I want to thank Tammy Peel in our office for compiling these numbers. She keeps us audited and straight. She works very closely with Allison's office and the auditor. And what we're really looking for here, we have our levy and our adjustments and our collections to date, but the big thing we're looking at, and this is our 97.78% collection rate. That's important because that number, once it's audited, we use that for next year's budgeting. So that's an important number. We try to get as much as we can in by that June 30th date, because that's sort of a snapshot date in time that affects us in the future. And am I stating that right, Mr. Wood?
Yes, you are.
Correct. So that's really the big point on this page right here. And because June 30th came and went, we didn't stop doing our job. I mean, we don't stop collecting taxes. Right now, I checked it this morning, and we are at 98.09. So that we continue to collect taxes. But again, the importance of that number is it affects our budget for next year. It's what we can actually use in our budgeting for next year. All right, next slide. This is our previous years. It shows us where we're at as far as our back taxes. We can collect up to 10 years worth of taxes on here. And I will not go through all these numbers, but basically we got about $2 million over that 10 years that we're working on, still working on those. And we're cleaning up a lot of old stuff now. We did get a new software a couple of years ago, and we're identifying properties, taxpayers that have moved out of the county, especially a lot of old vehicle bills that we used to have in our system. We're cleaning up a lot of those now, so we are working on these very diligently. Motor vehicles, as you know, that's now housed at the Department of Transportation. They do this when you do your registration. Our big percentage here is 96.34 you see, and that, again, I'll tell you as I did last year, that's a misleading number. It's based on what was billed, and it's a timing issue. In reality, that figure there is more like a 99.5% probably in reality, because it's a very good program that they started with the state doing this, and collections are very good on our vehicles. And as we said to start with, we have to show you due diligence that we're trying to collect these taxes. And this is where we ended up at the June 30th date as far as our wage garnishments, our bank account levies, rent attachments, and foreclosures. And again, you can see most of those are increased. So we're trying to collect our money. Debt set-off collections, the state allows us to submit outstanding delinquent taxes to the state, and if anybody is due a refund, state tax refund, or if they have lottery winnings over $800, we can attach those to pay any outstanding taxes. And you can see we submitted we collected from 241 debtors in the amount of almost $39,000 on that. And that concludes where we are as far as our settlement June 30th. Any questions?
Need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I do.
I so move on the motion to accept tax collector settlement for calendar year 2016 taxes and prior years.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And our next item is basically, we did our, as I mentioned, did our billing last night, and we're getting ready to send those out probably next week. So if you would actually allow me to do my job and approve me for collecting next year's taxes.
Is there a motion on the floor to do that?
So move.
Got a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wood, we're gonna need to probably recess about 11:15.
Right.
Because we need to be able to.
Right.
Should we go ahead and maybe perhaps go ahead and look at number 6 and get that out of the way? Because we'll be over there at that charter training room anyway.
Right. And we've
we
had.
can talk about the salaries after we come out of closed session.
Right, and we've had some discussion about number 6 already, but basically, what you have in front of you is the public hearing notice that the city has sent out. So, let me get to that, that's page 57. I just simply wanted to make y'all aware of this. I didn't know if everybody had seen it, but we have the map in here of the extraterritorial jurisdiction so that everybody is clear. Basically what they're doing, the blue line on that map shows how they've drawn the line for extraterritorial jurisdiction. The red marked up area is the area that that in essence they're going to remove from that. So their plan is to exclude that red area from the extraterritorial jurisdiction. And of course, that's primarily the Busco Beach area. The second map, Carol, if you'll go to that, please, is just a more of a bird's eye view of it so you can put it into perspective there. So basically, they're backing up to the river, to the east side of the river. Let me just quickly go over ETJ because I know we're pressed for time. Extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ, is a power that is given to municipalities by the state legislature. It allows them to do 3 things outside their city limits, and they can exercise that for up to 1 mile, but they're not required to exercise it. So it is totally up to the city if they want to exercise the ETJ, and they can determine whether they want to do less than the full 1 mile. So it's totally in their discretion. And the powers that are given to them in an extraterritorial jurisdiction are 3. 1, they control subdivisions, so they would be the reviewer of plats and approver of plats on there. Obviously, this is predominantly floodplain areas, so that probably won't come into play anyway. But if it did now, you would be the one who approves subdivisions. Second thing it does, it allows them to implement their zoning ordinance in that area. And that's the one that has the most impact on Busco, because they had given Busco Beach a conditional use permit that had some conditions in it that they had to meet, such as a curfew. And the third thing that extraterritorial jurisdiction does is it allows them to enforce the North Carolina Building Code, Fire Code, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing codes. And so all of that will now be transferred over to our inspections department. Because in the absence of them exercising ETJ, then that property is under the jurisdiction of the county. You do not have any zoning in that area. Currently, our policy has been that you zone only around schools. So, but that is a decision you would need to make. But that's essentially the effect of it. I just wanted y'all to be aware of it, that the city is taking steps to have a public hearing on that, which is required, and then they'll make a decision on it after the public hearing. So.
Do they have a timeline about when they're going to?
I don't have the public hearing with me, but I think
Monday night.
it's this coming Monday. And of course, right after the public hearing, they can vote, right? Just like our public hearings. So they could move very quickly on that. And the city manager's recommendation to them is to do this.
So you're anticipating as of Tuesday they were?
It's ours.
Okay.
But one thing that was said this morning, it's not that you're taking it over, but the city is getting out of it.
Mr. Chairman, basically, we have no control over what
they do.
What they do.
Not at all.
I know I need to keep my mouth shut, but I can't. Basically, if it's profitable for them, they want to keep it, but if it's not, let the county have a problem.
I think I do have a question, and it's probably relevant to the whole situation, but why did they set the ETJ there to start with? Does anyone know?
I don't.
Oh, got an answer.
Here's one right here. When the ETJ was established in that area, points were located amongst their contiguous those points had a 1 mile arc that goes out from that point to the point of another intersection of another arc, and that's why you have, doesn't show the actual city limits on here. They would have a point out here that would, an arc was swung from 1 mile, and then there was another one down here.
Jeff, let me interrupt you just a minute. Can you go back to the first map? That'll give you what you want to show. That blue line is the arc you're talking about.
That's the arc, but there was, actually from their contiguous boundary, they had a point on a corner. They take a 1 mile line out here and swing it from that one point until it intersects another point that they had set. They put that in a description and they record that, and that's their official ETJ boundary. What they're going to do is record some language to exempt this area. They've done it before. You go back to the previous map, just a second, real fast. Go up, you'll see right here, we have a small commercial park. They exempted that out sometime in the early 2000s for the purpose of that development to take place outside of their jurisdiction. It's kind of, it went in between there. It's the same thing. That arc was established on a point back here at 1 mile.
Okay. And if I may quickly, just historically, the state of North Carolina had let cities do this. The cities and towns took as much as they could in the extraterritorial because it was their intention to do what county manager has said, to zone it and to be able to control development, and then they were going to annex.
Yeah, and as he said, that's the theory behind it. That's why the legislature gives them that authority.
Anything else?
Okay, any other questions?
Let's read that property sale next, the property sale.
Okay, the property sale is one of those we handed out to you. This is from Noel Woods. This is at the request of the city of Goldsboro. As you know, we often own property together, particularly where we foreclosed on it. Now, this property is the Southern District Convocation on North Oak Forest Road. Tax value is $135,000. The offer is half of that, $67,500, which I believe the city's policy says they can accept up to that, or it has to be at least that, and that's what they've gone with. Borden has a picture of it. It is next to a church out there, and so this will be owned by the church. If this, and you've all got this as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, do you want to sell the property? And basically what will happen is the city of Goldsboro and Wayne County will split the $67,500 because you jointly own it through a tax foreclosure.
Did I understand you say the church is actually the one buying this?
Yes, that's my understanding.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion on the floor, any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. We actually may be able to do this, number two before we leave, so it's pretty quickly, we can't get through. Fairly.
Okay.
Check it back to the salary adjustments, we could do that real quick.
You want to do that now?
Yeah, I think we got time,
Okay.
I hope.
Well, these have been done by Geraldine. She's not here today because her knee is giving her some serious problems today. But these are the adjustments she and I are recommending. You'll see the percentage increase in the far column, but you also have on here what the dollar figure is on this. But as you can see, most of them average about 5% in the health department, and that's what we're recommending. This was the last major department, as she says in her memo, that we needed to address. If y'all remember, we started off with all the public safety departments 2 years ago. Then we went to, last year, we took care of the DSS department and made those adjustments. And this year, we're doing the health department, and that's the last major department. But we're also this year, because we had the money within the $300,000, we also have made some adjustments that we needed to make in facilities, which is the other major department we have. And as you see, there's a number of fairly low salaries in facilities. A lot of those are janitorial folks. So I think we're getting those up to better numbers there. And again, when you add those up, we're still within the $300,000. So our recommendation to you is to go with these two adjustments, and that we may have a small department here or there, but this takes care of all of our big departments. And I just want to say you guys are to be commended for this, because when you came into office, we all knew we had some serious salary adjustments that needed to be made. There's no way you could have afforded to do all of that at one time, but I think we've kind of eaten the elephant over a 3 or 4 year period, and we're just about there. But I think with this, coupled with the new pay plan you put in with the merit increases, I think we've turned the corner on a lot of that as far as that being the cause for turnover. So that's my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Questions? I have one. So we didn't have to move anybody to another grade at all?
No, that's why she's doing it like this. And we're just moving along in the scale.
All right, well, is there a motion to approve then?
So moved.
Is there a motion on the floor? Any more discussion?
Is that on 4 and 5 or just?
That's just 4.
4?
Well,
Where can you move
actually, Wayne, she did put them together.
Okay.
I had indicated they'd be separate, but she did one memo and gave you both spreadsheets.
So it's okay to do them together? All right, they're together, guys. That's what we've done. So all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, I was just handed a note.
Yeah.
So I will jump back there, which is kind of important too.
Yeah, I thought I would go over this with y'all. If you don't mind, I'll take a few minutes and read it.
We don't want to.
I appreciate that. This course is to y'all, and the subject is retirement.
Mr. Chairman, was this on our agenda?
That's out of order. It's out of order.
I don't have any walk.
No, but I have to say it's on my agenda. Dear Commissioners, this letter is to notify you formally that I intend to retire on December 31, 2017. My purpose in giving you advance notice is to facilitate your having a county manager and assistant county manager in place by January 1, 2018. The county has numerous projects underway, and there is simply no way that one person can manage them all and this entire organization. My plans are to continue to manage these various projects along with Assistant County Manager Craig Honeycutt and prepare for as smooth a transition in county managers as possible. I appreciate the confidence that you have shown me in this position, and have enjoyed working with all of you. This Board of Commissioners can be proud of the many improvements in county government during your tenure. You have addressed facility needs of both the county and the Board of Education and improved the operational efficiency of county departments. You have markedly improved your working relationships with the Board of Education, Community College, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and the municipalities, especially the city of Goldsboro. You have positioned this county well for future economic development. I have particularly enjoyed working with the management staff of Wayne County. They are highly competent and motivated to improve this county. I have never worked with a more dedicated group of public servants. Pam and I have enjoyed our time in Wayne County and look forward to seeing you continue to lead this community to even more success. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it over the last few years, sincerely. So, again, I wanted to give y'all notice early enough so that you could begin the process of finding a replacement manager and getting the manager and assistant manager in place January 1, because as y'all know, March 1 is our deadline, hopefully, for opening up the Maxwell Center. And so we need to have everybody in place and on board before we get into that, because that'll be the last 60 days there.
Well, you know, we certainly appreciate it. There's plenty of crying time between now and December. Oh, yeah. And a lot of times, there's ways to make you change your mind and all that kind of stuff. But,
We don't have to accept this deal.
no, but I told you it was smart.
You want me to make a motion?
It was out of order anyway. But you know, all seriously, each of us up here appreciate everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate it. I've enjoyed working with y'all.
Well, gentlemen, right now, I think what we'll need to do is, we've got an 11:30 appointment. We'll go ahead and recess and go over to the HR training room for our appointment over there. You got one thing?
I need to make a comment just before
Okay,
you
before I
recess.
recess.
Listen, this is sort of out of the norm. I just want to thank Mr. Wright. Over the years, when he come up and give a presentation, he does his homework. And I have followed him for a number of years now, and I have gone and researched your presentation that you bring up, and I find it to be at least 99.9% correct in what you present to us. So that presentation this morning, again, proved to me that you don't just come up and just sort of shoot off at the mouth. You bring your stuff with you, and I appreciate that, because I have a lot of your copies that you have presented over the years. And I have researched it and gone back and double-checked and found out that you have the right information when you present it. So thank you again.
No, we're going to recess to go over the
Okay.
We're recessed now.